Hello, Aussie appreciation people. An extensive study has come out today showing some quite disturbing facts about our superannuation, such as, we're all gonna die in poverty! A study carried out by me. On me. Much to my horror. Okay, so I know this topic is not for everyone. There are much better ways to spend your time, like pretend you don't need to know how to survive when you're older, or find something to feel oppressed about. Kids these days will never understand how I suffered. Blame the government. Can't trust the government for everything that's gone wrong. My teeth are messed up because of both Labor and Liberal. And try living at home to save money until you're 60 because that's a solid life strategy. But if you thought like me, hey, the law forces 10.5% of my money to be put into a superannuation account before I get paid, so I may as well get the biggest bang for my buck possible because there's zero company loyalty anymore. HR would literally roll my dead body off the chair to replace me, but they would probably bend at their knees because of workplace health and safety and stuff. And I won't get a gold watch when I retire. I probably won't even get a thank you. So I need to look out for my future self. Then this week's video is for you, unless you're one of those rare people with the affliction of knowing exactly what they're going to do in life when you turn 18. Firstly, realize that you're not going to have enough to retire on if you rely on the default superannuation settings that are set up here in Aussie land. I recall when I first started working, the superannuation companies would come out, they'd come out to your workplace, they'd sell their services, but I never heard any of them tell me that you're not going to have enough to retire on with our plans. They're all talking about how they're the best funds out there and they're giving away free grab bags and stickers and paraphernalia. I don't want a fridge magnet when I'm 80, I want to be able to afford prunes. The mandatory amount of money that your boss, your employer, has to put aside into your superannuation account before paying you is 10.5%. If you keep it at that rate, that's actually not going to be enough to let you retire on by the time you hit 67, which is the current retirement age. And we're all living longer than ever before, so by the time you kids grow up, living to 100 is not going to be a Guinness World Record. Also, most super funds default into a balanced portfolio, unless you deliberately change that, meaning the fund by default is not putting your money hard at work at the highest possible growth. So strike two on having any chance of growing your money at the default setup. You'll have to go into your account online yourself and change the investment strategy to get higher returns. And to top it off, if you've had more than one job, which is probably everyone now, we keep changing jobs every year or two under the delusion the next one's not going to be as crappy as this one. So there's going to be a good chance that your super has been paid into more than just one fund. There are many different superannuation funds out there and employers like to put their money in their preferred fund. So that means you're probably paying separate fees on all the different superannuation accounts that are open in your name because you've changed jobs, meaning hemorrhaging even more money. So that's strike three. We're already out of the race and the fight to not eat baked beans when we're in our 70s, out of the can because we won't be able to afford the electricity in order to heat it up. I wish somebody had told me this in my 20s. In fact, thank you, Brenda, for having that chat with me recently about superannuation because I didn't realize a lot of immigrants have no idea about Australian superannuation, students, or even just Aussies who turn 18 or start their first job. Nobody's really going to research this unless it's your kind of kinky thing. Superannuation. I was share housing with an American who was living here in Australia for 20 years and he still didn't know about this stuff. I got him to find all of his superannuation accounts and roll them into one so he saved on management fees. He could also then adjust his superannuation investment options. Because firstly, I enjoy helping people. Once I've learned something, I create a video or I'll share it. You know, I want people to do well and certainly better than the stuff that I've experienced. And also, I love a good savings thanks to my poverty childhood. He had money all over the place because they don't have superannuation in the US. They've got IRAs, 401ks, but they operate differently. They don't have the same level of Fort Knox that we have in Australia. In my 20s, I made the mistake of thinking that superannuation was something you have to worry about later on down the track, and I thought it was something you couldn't touch, you could do nothing about, you had zero control over, and you just had to wait until you retired. So wrong. You have to see the numbers for yourself. So the first thing to do is figure out exactly how much will I end up with if I keep working at the same pace I'm currently working at. There's some really awesome online calculators that will do it all for you. It'll have a graph and it will project into the future as to how much you'll end up with, whether you'll have enough and at what age it'll taper off if you don't have enough. These are all free. I'll drop some links below so you can click on them and have a play. It was so freaking sobering for me, and it really lit a fire under my butt, because until you can see it, it seems too much in the future. And especially when you're young or in your 20s, that is such a perfect age to start at. But what I've also noticed is I've looked at the fine print. Firstly, there are a number of assumptions that these calculators make. One is you're going to retire and it assumes that you own your own home. If there was an online slap wake-up call emoji, like that would be one I would want to slap these websites with. I couldn't find a way to uncheck that assumption, like a checkbox where it would say, do you own or will you rent? Click, so that would readjust some of your figures. Most people probably won't own their own home now. We're becoming a nation of renters. Sorry, spoiler alert. If you don't have enough money in your super and you do end up with the age pension here, the age pension also assumes that you own your own home, and rudely assumes that your home hasn't been sold from under you because your kids decided to declare you mentally unfit for quick cash to fly to Mallorca. Jeez, that got dark. I did family law for a while. I can't unsee stories. Also, the calculators don't factor in the Medicare levy that you'll be paying until you die. So there are fees that are going to be coming out that these calculators don't capture. So there will be fees coming out of your retirement and you'll need to put away more money in order to cover that. But here's the real kicker on all of these super projection calculators and everything that says what the average Australian needs and what they're going to end up with. The calculations defaults to giving you an annual income of around $50,000. Most people, if you're going to be renting, will need a heck lot more than $50,000 a year, because right now, 2023, renting in Sydney CBD, you're looking at an average of $32,000 per year on rent for a box. So imagine in 50 years' time what the rent is going to be. Who wants to go out in life on $50,000 a year when you've spent most of your life probably living on around $70,000? Do we suddenly become cheaper to run when we get older? Just stop having desires to travel or to move around much and just stay in one place watching Wheel of Fortune? So factor all of that in to mean that we need to put more into our super than just the 10.5% default, and we do need to make adjustments, and we do need to add extra for all the things that aren't accounted for. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to survive unless you want to share house with 5 other people from your mid-60s onwards and deal with the random flatmates who have drunken animal parties and vomit on the lawn while you're trying to get some sleep, who steal food from the shared kitchen area and don't clean up after themselves. Not exactly the Club Med lifestyle and annual trip to Bali that we imagined. Start early as soon as you get a job. The power of compounding. We've all heard of this before. It is so important. Everyone who has accumulated wealth in their life loves compounding. I just like pounding. This is a relaxing device. I call it the pummeler. I should put this on my Amazon store because it's actually fantastic. It's a massage device for these stressful kind of topics. Look at that. And it's got a different attachments. Okay, I'm getting distracted here. Let me just put that away. I'll share a link. Put your money in your super. Do not touch it, like a pimple. Don't touch it, don't pick at it. Put a band-aid over it and pretend it doesn't exist, and it will do its own natural healing. Your super will grow amazingly if it's put into investments that have a good percentage return. Your super is typically invested in a variety of assets like shares, bonds, and property. Your superannuation investment options need to align with your risk tolerance and investment goals. If you're like me right now, you're opting for Grande Maximus Diablo hot sauce growth. How you decide to invest is up to you based on your age, your risk tolerance, and your investment goals. If you're not sure what your risk tolerance is, speak to a financial advisor. I am not one of those people. Because somebody on YouTube urging you to max out and to start as early as possible is just one person speaking about their experience. That's me. If you're self-employed or you have dreams of being an influencer where you're your own boss, because we all know that being an influencer means that you're your own boss and now work 7 days a week non-stop, because if you don't keep working and finding sponsors, you'll have no money, just like if you stop working, like if you're an employee. Then you will need to take care of your own superannuation. It is not compulsory right now, if you're self-employed, to put money into a super account, but that is going to be on you. If you decide not to set up a superannuation account, I hope that you have a team, a financial advisor, or a strategy that will really make sure that you're making the most of your money and setting something aside for your future. Do people still marry for money? Is that actually a strategy? I think that ship has sailed. Salary sacrifice. This is my favorite. Once I discovered it, man, I wish I discovered this in my 20s. This is how you pay less tax and fatten your super account at the same time. This is where you're allowed to go to your boss and ask them to put aside more money into your superannuation account before you get paid, so they can put in more than 10.5%. Yes, that means you get paid less on payday. That's the sacrifice part. But you don't lose out so much, because any contribution you make before you get paid that is pre-tax money only has a 15% tax rate. Compared to the money you receive on payday, that's probably been taxed at 32.5%. I'm guessing if you earn under $100,000, check out this table, tax office, ATO website, will list the tax bracket that you'll fall in. Most people, I'm assuming, will pay anywhere between 30 and 40% tax. So if you go to your boss and you say, hey, could you please put $500 extra per month into my superannuation account? It's not like you're getting $500 less on payday, because you're not being taxed the full 30 to 40%. It's short-term sacrifice for long-term gains and being patient. Even if it's $50 a month, that over years of investing is going to get bigger. Check out the calculator. There's a salary sacrificing component that you can have a play with numbers and see how much that's going to end up looking like in X number of years' time. It's not as bad as what you think. You may not need to put aside that much in order to get such a huge benefit at the end. So those are the things that I wish I knew, and I hope it helps you and that you become immensely wealthy, because you deserve the best experiences in life. Check out the little linky things below. Have fun, use that calculator, have a read. Hopefully it won't be as shocking as mine was. Look after yourself and maybe get yourself one of these. Oh my Lord.